Everyone, welcome to another founder slash CEO of Wisdom podcast. Today with us, we have Marco Savino. He is founder and CEO at ETA Pro. Marco, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and a bit more about ETA Pro?
Thank you, Charles. Thanks for hosting me today. So I am the CEO and founder of ETA Pro, which is a sport tech company that is working vertical in football. And we are providing basically intelligence platform for football clubs and association. So you can ask yourself now, what is an intelligence platform? What we do is basically collecting all the data of the clubs and players in the same place, and then we help the decision maker to take better decision faster.
Interesting. Tell us about how did you get in there? Because it's a special business, right? It's really niche. What's your background?
Yeah, I'm a former sports scientist. I've been working in the football industry as part of coaching staff for the last 14 years. And that's where I started to think about founding ETA Pro and creating such a software. Because when I was on the PH charts, I was always saying that I was taking care about the main asset of the club, the players. And still now people think that players are just athletes running behind the ball, but they're much more than that. Because if you think about the wage to revenue ratio, just in the first 5 top league in Europe, it's about 80%, which is a lot. So the other problem is that basically everyone in football is a vertical now. So we always work in data silos. So it was time for me to create something that was enabling everyone to access the same information on the same platform. And that at the end of the day was streamlining communication and workflow, because this is one of the main issues at the moment in football.
So you have 40 clubs right now. How much do you charge them? Is it monthly? Is it yearly? What's the deal?
Yeah, it really depends, because we have like top clubs, so the lead side of the market. So talking about big clubs from First Division and Champions League club, Europa League clubs, and of course they pay yearly mainly, and there is a pricing that can go from, I don't know, 10K per year up to 100, 150K depending on what they want to do. And then we have the let's say the other side of the market, which is sub-elite level, second, third division academies and soccer school, for example, and they can pay even let's say $100 per month. It's a very different solution, but we can serve both sides of the market.
And the Premier League, do you charge them higher prices? Because these guys, they've got lots of money. They could probably pay like, at least 500 or $1,000 a month. So what does your pricing look like for them?
Yeah, so let's say that the pricing is based on a user model. So we decide to do this in order to democratize a little bit the pricing. So whether you are Paris Saint-Germain, AC Milan, or Chelsea, and probably you need, I don't know, 90, 100 users on your system because you have more employees and more resources. And if you're instead like a small club from second or third division, you can still access the same features, but having less user on board. So that means that the pricing will be accorded to their specific needs and resources and sites, of course.
Have you thought of charging per player?
Yeah, I thought about that and actually anticipated the topic, because we're going to launch a new product now, which is for players and agents. So yeah, for team squad, for us, it's better to charge by user, because the player a lot, and depending on also on the sports, rugby, basketball, it change, the numbers of players.
Okay.
Instead, like if we charge per player, probably the agent app is the right one. Yeah.
I see lots of features there, some of which are quite important, like injury tracking. I've told you that I watch All In on Prime, which was one of my favorite series that follows the players in the locker rooms, hockey teams, soccer teams, football teams. So that was like amazing to get a glimpse of these teams. My question is, what is the alternative to that? Because I kind of view it as a CRM for sports. Do people use Salesforce like to replace that? Like what is their alternative instead of ETA Pro?
Yeah, this is a very good question, because it really helped me to describe the state of art of the football industry. That is a very rich industry, even though it's niche, but at the same time, we're a little bit behind other industry in terms of digitalization, and let's say creating a digital framework. We're pretty behind, so for me it's very good because I came out with a product that will solve this issue. But let's say that the main competitor of us at the moment is Excel. So there's not really a proper system that is taking care about both the ground operation, administration, and finance. So we have a lot of vertical system in each department that don't talk to each other, and that's why we keep working data silos in most of the clubs, and we're trying to fix this issue basically.
If I'm not a coach, but an owner of a club. So if I'm an owner of a club and I want to grow my club substantially, what should I do specifically? What would be the top three tactics that I would take to actually make more money with my club?
Yeah, this is another good one because it depends a lot on the level of the club as well. Of course, if you're a top team, you have different goal and different strategy compared to a middle-sized team. But let's talk about the most common case, a mid-sized team that wants to be sustainable. So I would say that, of course, first of all, we should have a very good academy project. The reason why is because the player that you grow in your academy over a period of 5, 6, 7 years, it can be the asset of the future. So you can start making like player trading based on your methodology, and your identity as a club. And we have a lot of nice examples in Europe, especially like Ajax. We go like Atalanta, Udinese, and many more clubs that keep, let's say, creating new talents and new top players. But I would say that another important thing that most of the people are still not very focused on, and I think it will make a big difference in the future, that if we're able to create a good process, a good workflow in the company, we're gonna save a lot of time and money over the years. And this is something which is not perceivable. Sometimes it's not tangible, because if someone is, if one employee is working 2 hours less per day, at the end of the year, how many hours less? And you have to multiply this for all the numbers of employees. So the organization will be healthier, everyone will be happier, and they will be focused more on the main issues instead of losing time behind processes that are not really smooth. This is my biggest probably focus at the moment, even as a technology provider.
Billionaires buy clubs for a living, or is it because of an investment? Is it more because of an ego thing? I own this club, or is it both? Like, hey, he's the owner of X club. You must be important, and because of that, he gets more deal. How good of an investment is a club? Because I read an article recently saying that buying an NFL franchise is one of the best investment ever, because it's really deeply ingrained in American society, just like football clubs are. I mean, they're somewhat resilient business, except for COVID, and we're gonna talk about that. That was gonna be the last question, but how good of an investment is it? Is it for cash? Is it more for ego that you buy a club? Tell us a bit more on that.
So yeah, this is a pretty nice one because I think we have both sides of what you're saying. Like there's like still billionaires and millionaires are buying clubs, to expose themselves and for ego. But I think that that time is almost over. I think that now there's a lot of funds and groups, financial group, that are buying clubs because they see a business opportunity there, and everyone wants to run a club in a sustainable way. And of course, one of the goals is to make like money as every business. And I think the fastest way to do is through player trading, as I was saying before, because you can transfer a player for 20, 30 million. You can make like 50 million of dividends per year if you're running a club in the right way. This is in Europe, not like probably in the US. Then the multiplier much higher than Europe, of course. But the other thing is that probably different model makes a huge difference, because if you buy a club, I don't know, in MLS or in NFL, you pay a fee to, let's say, to subscribe to the league, and then there's no relegation. So basically, the investors will be able to return on his investment because it's going to have like at least 10 years time. It's going to be a long-term project. Instead, in Europe, there's relegation. So this model in Europe sometimes that is kind of pushing some urgency, and we should differentiate results from the way the company is being run, because you can run a company very well, sometimes you can still get relegated because sometimes you can't have like full control on every single variable. And on the other side, sometimes you run the business in a very bad way, but you keep winning because you have a great coach, great player. So when the two of these two variables they get together, there's where we have like probably that magic, let's say, ingredient, to push the business at another level for sure.
To me, it's one of the best investment ever. Why? First, because most people buying clubs are kind of old schmucks, that are not familiar with technology. Okay, because like in my case, it'd be a technology investment, right? Like most of the time, that always win. But if you just check also the, like basic principles, not a lot of people will buy a club. You need a lot of liquidity to buy a club, right? And the sale is in a very short window time, which means that you don't have a lot of competitors when it comes to buying the club. That's one. Secondly, like you said, there's a lot of sources of money. There's a lot of channels of cash. So match day revenue, broadcasting rights, sponsorship and advertising, transfer fees, merchandising, corporate hospitality, prize money, and so forth. So that's the second reason why I think it's good. There's a lot of source in which you can make cash flow and borrow more money with that. And finally, I think it's ripe for innovation. I think there's so much you can make with a club, and yeah, usually it's been with old people just running the club as business as usual. But I think if you bring like a bunch of innovation people, and I think we're starting to see that, but that can be pretty powerful. We can talk about so many other channels, like about the agent model, about like the personal athlete sponsorship. Like yesterday, I saw Messi sponsoring an NFT company, and it was like, yeah, he can do better, Anyway, so I think it's one of the best investment, except when the black swan hits. So my last question for you is, how did you survive COVID?
Oh, yeah, that was a big pain for everyone. It was completely unexpected, especially for a company like us. At that time, we just launched the company since less than a year, and we were having very great results. Let's say, was skyrocketing the company because it was a new technology, so everyone was asking about it. And then when we had to do, the big step, to go global, we've been hit by the pandemic. However, that's been tough, a very tough period, especially for a small startup like us, especially at that time. But it was even a big opportunity because it makes you understand that there's a lot of things are not working the right way. So you start to rationalize all the expenses, to focus on the things that are the most important on the business. But at the same time, you push the digital concept to your clients because they start to understand what it means digital transformation after COVID. Because before, a lot of things they were, you run a lot of meeting in person when you can do it in remote, and just that moment where people start to understand what was a remote call, that moment was a great moment for us because it pushed the concept of the business even further. So this is just a little example, but we can apply this to a lot of process across the team. For example, even the communication with player. Clubs that were in panic. They didn't know how to communicate with player because they didn't have they're still doing it through WhatsApp or by email. But think
Yeah,
about the player opening an email. They will never do that.
yeah, yeah.
So, for example, just having a little digital support, like having an app to send videos, to communicate training programs, or even just a scheduling tool, that is a very basic thing, but it will make a huge difference, especially in an industry that is still a little behind on the technology implementation.
Yeah, and I can see so many pieces of innovation, like tracking their Apple Watch data and making conclusions out of that. Also, their mental health, right? Like I think it's a really under talked topic. It's tough to be an athlete, lots of pressure, and um, especially when the journalist gets against you. Think there's so much work to do there, and if the athlete is sane mentally, he will perform. very good physically. And one of the most interesting aspect, in my opinion, is betting, right? So we've seen it with DraftKings and like big businesses like that. I think there's so much potential. Oh, can I bet on how much time he will touch a ball? Can I bet on how much passes he will do? Can I bet on how much meters he will run? You know,
Yeah.
I think us, especially men's, we're like alpha and we love to be right? So we love to bet and say, oh, see, here I was right, especially the type of fans of football. So I think there's a lot of potential. So thank you, Marco, for today. It was a very succinct interview. You responded like really quick to the questions. I like that. Where can people find out more about you and ETA Pro?
Yeah, so on our website, of course, which is eterpro.com, the way I pronounce it, the only thing that in the US usually say IterPro, in Europe they say ETA Pro, is the same, but you can find more information on our website for sure.